It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank, and it's AM 1160, WCCS 101.1 FM, 8:45 in the morning. Walter Schroth is with us, a member of the Indiana Area School Board, and one of those who has been more than just an interested observer. He's been a participant in the various debates that have gone on for the last couple of years now about the elementary school project, and that project came to a resolution of sorts in the last week or so, and so I thought it would be good to have somebody come in and talk about what happens next in the Indiana Area School Board. And Walter seems like the natural choice because, Walter, your plan, what were you, Plan B?
Plan B. Good morning, Todd.
You were Plan B. And that was one of the suggested pathways that might be followed. But, Walter, I just wanted to get a feel, and maybe you could help us all to understand what direction you believe the Indiana Area School Board and district as a whole will be going next.
Well, first of all, Todd, technically they've not actually made a formal decision to abandon the project. Superintendent Kirsch took an administrative action to stop all work on the project until the board had a chance to deliberate and consider some options moving forward. Mm-hmm. Very briefly, they ran into a logistical issue with PennDOT and some of the requirements that PennDOT was going to probably impose on the district that essentially became a showstopper for the proposed 900-student school building. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then at last Monday's, not this past Monday, but I believe it was June the 12th meeting of the Buildings and Grounds and the full board meeting, there were several options that were presented at the Buildings and Grounds Committee. The board seemed to indicate an interest in two of those, and at this coming board meeting on the 26th, in addition to the budget, we will also be looking at those two options and get a sense from the board as to which direction it wants to go.
Mm-hmm. Basically, those were Plan B and Plan D, were they not?
Technically, they were options D and E. Option D was to formally put a stop to the project. Implied in option D, though, was that the board would then begin to look at some other alternative measures to deal with some of the infrastructural issues that have been identified in this process. Some drains, some panel boxes, some access, some safety issues with office locations, that sort of thing. Plan E was to look at and consider the option of building a 600-student school at Ben Franklin.
Mm-hmm. All right, so those are some of the things that will be considered in terms of the elementary school projects, and the board will undergo that debate process and allow that system to play out, or that process to play out.
Yes, sir, that is correct. And of course, I would encourage everyone that has an interest in this to either come to the board meeting, or if it is being streamed live, to at least participate in that way.
In the past, with the elementary school project, and not just that, but other issues, you as a school board member, you've served several terms. Is this your second time around, or your third as a member of the Indiana Area School Board?
It's actually my third time, Todd.
Yeah.
I served for 2 years, and then there was 2 years off, and then I'm 2 years into my third term at this point.
All right. So that being the case, you have a lot of experience as a member of a school board and the way school boards relate to the public. And there have been some pretty, well, I don't know if disturbing is the word, but certainly there's been some rancor between some members of the public and some members of the school board in this debate, frankly. I think it's important for us to talk about that and how school boards relate to the public, and as well the fact that people need to understand that these are people who are volunteer people. You're not paid for what you do as a member of a school board, but it's an awful big responsibility, and it can be very stressful.
Absolutely, Todd. You know, you're looking at managing or the oversight of a $50 million company or organization. I think this year the budget is going to be closer to $52 million, but it is a rather awesome responsibility. I truly believe that by and far the majority of school board members all over the country, including the Indiana board, are there because while they bring different perspectives to the problems, they truly are there for what they believe is the best interest of the community and the students. Mm-hmm. As far as looking forward as to I think you're right that there's been a certain loss of trust or confidence that the public has in the way the board approached this project. That's going to be one of the key things that we're going to have to do moving forward is to build that trust back with the community, that we can work together then in collaboration with the community members.
Do you see that manifesting itself in somehow changing the way that the board operates, or is it just a matter of being more attentive and responding more quickly to some of the concerns that are expressed, no matter the issue?
Well, I think there's lots we can do. I think one of the things that has happened now is the people have the community has become motivated and is now paying very, very strict attention to what the board is doing. And the question then is, how do we capture that or continue to capture their interest and help involve them in the process so that we can, in fact, come to a consensus within the community as what is in the best interest of our students.
A part of this conversation has always been preparing for the future, as with every school board and with every school building project that is taken on. It's always with an eye toward the future and whether what is there now is adequate to meet the needs of the day, and as technology and other issues arise, whether the school district would be prepared in the future to meet those issues. As far as you're concerned, is Indiana Area School District on the right path to making itself viable for future technology needs, future space needs, all of those things in the future?
Well, one of the issues, Todd, from my perspective, is that the technology has been changing so fast and so rapidly, it's hard to kind of keep up. I don't know that anybody can really forecast what it's going to look like in the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons I was opposed to this project at this point in time. There are several others, but that was one of the reasons, is that maybe we should just sit tight, bide our time, deal with what we have, and then as the technology emerges, then we'll have a better idea of what the new building should look like. Mm-hmm. I do have to take my hat off to Holly Roger and Superintendent Kirsch and Jeff Boyer and their staff. They have really made some huge strides in bringing technology into the classroom. Even since I first came on the board in 2005, the changes are absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. One of the justifications for the consideration of the elementary school plan has been the fact that if you wait 5, 10, 15 years to do something, it will get more expensive as life gets more expensive. Do you see that as a part of this equation?
There is certainly an inflationary cost that we've all experienced in construction. There's no doubt about that, Todd. The question, I think, though, becomes one of financing. Are you better off to spend less money today to actually build the building, but more money in interest, or are you better off to wait until a future date and then spend less money? To put it very succinctly, we still have a lot of debt that the district is carrying. As a wraparound financing, we would essentially be paying the interest for 10 years, which would amount to something a little over $9 million before we even began to pay the interest or the principal down. The question then is that $9 million in interest better spent in interest, or are you better off to wait and then spend it in bricks and sticks when you actually are out of debt and can do this basically for cash, or at least for a very low term on the borrowing.
Just a moment or so left with Walter Schroth. One of the questions I've always had has to do with the people who are actually making the recommendations. A school administration, they're in the business of educating. A school board is in the business as a panel of guiding and directing the direction for a school board to go. It is an awful lot to have to ask people in those positions to then put on whole new hats and become experts in a field for which they were not trained. And so you have to rely upon consultants and others to make those decisions, or at least to make those recommendations so that you can make an informed decision. Is that system, am I correct in characterizing it that way?
Yes, you are, to a certain extent, Todd. And I think that's the other reason why we really want to have a diverse group of people who are working on the who become elected and become school board members. When you're dealing with the school architects or the engineers, let's be real honest. These guys are trying to make some money on this deal, okay? And so to have people that are familiar with how they do business to help guide you through that process, who are board members, I think is absolutely critical. And it's not just about the architects, it's about everything else. We spend a ton of money on insurance. Having somebody from the insurance community on our board to help guide the process is certainly advantageous. Mm-hmm. So I guess the solution to that problem is electing good school board members from diverse groups within the community. I think that's really how you get it done.
Yeah. He's Walter Schroth, Indiana Area School Board member. This obviously is not a settled issue and will continue to go on, but not just in the Indiana Area District. Every district eventually has to make decisions such as those that you're wrestling with now within your district.
Well, the problem really, Todd, is that all districts have financial issues. I think I read a study once where only something like 2 or 3% of the districts in Pennsylvania are so well heeled that they really don't have to address some of these financial shortfalls, the budget and so on. So whether it's Indiana or any other district, when you follow the news coverage on the other districts in the county, they're all struggling with some of these same issues, particularly how do we balance the budget and get the best bang for the taxpayer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we want to thank you and thank all of the Indiana Area School Board members, all school board members everywhere, for their volunteer service. And we appreciate that you take on such a headache, such a task. Thank you, Walter, for joining us this morning.
You're welcome, Todd. I was glad to be here.
It's Indiana in the Morning, AM 1160 WCCS and 101.1 FM.